Okay, so we're continuing this postural correction. Postural correction, this particular course is designed to change your physical posture with some real hard leverage movements, trying to move the posture back into some plane that takes out the resistance. So what we want to do is move the head back, shoulders back, and hip back underneath the body. And that's what this particular regimen is designed for to do. And you can go back in using something like the structural balance regimen and more specifically isolate and clean up some of the musculature. This is basically just trying to get the framework back into some kind of a basic alignment that the client can feel when they get up, and that's going to be a real winner for you. So we want to start out with a sweep for lordosis and kyphosis. And again, we've done our bench work. You can do your bench work before, after, or some before and after. Either way, whatever it takes to reinforce the work that you're doing on the table. For lordosis, you move the tissue from medial to lateral. And simply take your arm, go on top of the crest, close to the spine, and just drag it down. At the same time, you can do a simultaneous movement coming up here from this serratus anterior, and you can bring all this material up towards the center for the kyphosis. So if I do them at the same time, I bring one arm down, one up, and I just slowly cause this sweep to occur. And again, we're only going to do a few of these movements, and for video's sake, we're only going to do one side. There we go. After having done that, then you come in and do a body sweep with this torque and lay across the body, come across top of the hip, and just slowly allow yourself to move with caution. And you want to drag all these weak muscles like that posterior rotator cuff back. And if you need to increase the sweep to get more torque in the body, working on that spiral bend, then cross both legs. And we'll do the same thing. This part I'd like to raise up and go on this bolster for me. This is a unique bolster. It's got a wood shim system in it. Replicates what's called SOT techniques in chiropractic. Basically, it just helps to float the body back into proper balance by allowing the hips to find a nice level position. As you can see, the body's kind of floating here. From here you can go down to the feet and start sculpting. And if you sculpt the heel, you can change position where a person stands, where the body weight falls. You can work on the various arches of the plantar surface here. And you can get as deep as you want into this. All I'm doing is just loosening a few things up here. Go through and loosen up the gastroc, go up underneath the psoas, go down to the hamstrings and expand the hamstrings where they attach, crossing over back and knee. And then we want to involve some GTO work over these tendon organ. Reach under the ischial tuberosity here and across the hamstrings here, and just kind of knead and twist and involve those organs. The GTOs reset the length of themselves, that muscle. They're synergists, and they strengthen their antagonists when they've been activated. Okay. And you can tractioning here, holding on that ischial tuberosity, and just kind of traction like okay. From here we'll come back up to the occiput, and again, you can't do enough work in suboccipitals because they're always too tight. I use this web hand across the suboccipitals and this across the top of the traps. Push my hands together, ask him to raise his head. As he does, I just kind of cross fiber friction this area a little bit to some activation in it, and release. And we can do that several times. Then you want to go through and clean up the spine. We're trying to work on Dowager's humps, and that is the vertebrae that are staying open here at the top, these thoracics, and we'd like them to close. This tissue becomes congealed and real thick. It doesn't want to move. One thing you can do then is just something like a soft fist. And I'll reach right here and I'll pick up these trapezius with my fist and just let it hold into it softly, press it into my body and wait. And wait. And as it starts to soften then, start helping it with the other hand along the spine. And I'll ask Wayne to raise his head. And then drop your head for me. And raise your head. And drop it. And carry that all the way down to the lower rhomboids. And then continue on that side of the spine until you get to the crest. And kind of peel that off the crest. Next thing you want to do is a little shoulder shearing. And with that, I'm going to reach around to the front of the clavicle, holding on to that, and shearing this shoulder, basically pushing that scapula around until it's loose and mobile. One of the old sayings is put it back where it goes and make it move. And that seems to be true. You always want to clear all the points around the scapula, work up into these upper trapezius, down to the inferior border of the scapula. And you can traction it by distracting it up. Put the palm down. You put the person's palm down. Then you can reach right here and you can pick up the scapula. You don't want to go under there too hard to overstretch it, because you got to remember these rhomboids are usually weak. But they do have adhesions that occur underneath the scapula, and those are things that you want to deal with. From here, then basically to recap, we went through and did this lordosis, kyphosis work, this sweeping work. We did the body torque work. We sculpted the feet a little bit and loosened up some of the hamstrings. One of the other things you can do with hamstrings is to be aware that often you have adhesions in the hamstrings. And if you do, then you'll work between them trying to separate them. Another adhesion that's very common is the adductor magnus, and since you know where the ischial tuberosity is, you can go from there under the hamstrings, find that connection between the two. There's kind of a void between muscles where the sacs are, and I think they call it a septum. And you reach in there and you try to create some separation. And that's pretty much it for this piece of prone. Again, we're going to go on to the sideline position and pick it up from there. Okay, we're back to the sideline position now. We've gone from the prone position, now we're going to do this side work. And the side is one area that I really like working the body, because you get all the accessibility you want to both sides, both front and back. We'll start out, drop this leg off, basically lengthening front of the sideline of the body. Put the leg off, reach right in here, place my hip next to his, kind of locks it down. And again, I was watching someone that made this point. It's a good point. Tighten your arm up first and then loosen your arm. It's easier to know where it's tight and then go toward loose. And as everybody says, you know, speed is the enemy of depth. So when you're doing this in real time, a lot of times you'll have to do it much slower than what I'm doing it. But you want active engagement as often as you can. So Wayne, I'm going to ask you to stretch your arm out and just kind of move your wrist and fingers a little bit around. There you go. Just any kind of active engagement here tends to help. And again, I'm pushing everything back from lateral to medial at the top, and just going right along the side here, building these sides. And that's good. And just like again. Next thing I want to do is distract the spine a little bit. I start down here at L5, usually put my fingers in it, and pull the tissue out from underneath my fingers. Some people aren't as strong and can't do it quite this way. Some people have to reach in here and just physically use all of their arm to pull the tissue out of the spine. You can do this all the way up. And it gets a little harder when you get up around the shoulder. And so here's where you use the shoulder. And then we want a little engagement of the neck. What I want to do here is work the SCMs, the scalenes, and the clavicle, and this entire shoulder all at one time. It's just about loosening everything. So what I'll say is, Wayne, if you would turn your head to the left for me, just a little bit, there you go. Now reach around and capture where the SCM attaches to the clavicle. And as he has his head turned to the left, of course, that SCM is on. It's tight, and I'm pulling back on it. And I'm using the shoulder as a lever. And if I come across the neck a little bit more, I'll capture scalenes right behind the SCM. And again, I'm pulling back as he's turning to the left. And that's good. So, that allowed me to pull into the SCMs and scalenes. Next thing I want to do is, of course, loosen this entire shoulder up here. You can reach under the shoulder blade. You can reach around the top of the clavicle. The arm is laced within my arm, and that gives me a lot of leverage here. So everything's moving. Okay? And placing the arm down to the side again, we want to work these open vertebrae that are most commonly open, causing the dowagers. And we want to move all of this upper sling back. But to do that, I can take a broad fist, catch right next to the mastoid process behind the SCM, and I would say, Wayne, I'd like you to tuck your chin for me and bring it back up slowly, and tuck it and bring it back up. And as he does, I pick up the slack and go straight down the back. Now how you do this is up to you. Some people reach in here and just capture them. Some people use their fingers. Doesn't matter how you do it. Key is to create a smooth groove and to work with that engagement that he's giving us. It's good. And release. There's only a few thousand ways of using your hands, so I'm not going to tell you to do it the way I do it. Same thing then, I'd like you to, using this web hand into the suboccipitals, push your head back to my hand again. He does. And I cross fiber with some resistance. And release. Then you want to reach down and pick up the leg and do this trochanteric compression, putting your hand right across the top of the trochanter between you and your stomach, and make a nice little circular movement. Trying to clean this area up. And you can go back far enough if you want to stretch the psoas. Just get a really good range of motion and clean out that socket by putting pressure on top of it. Sometimes tissue gets congested and stuck down in these sockets. Okay. And then last of all, come back and do a real hard work on his spine. Same thing. Got a broad hand here, picking up the traps. And tuck your chin for me and bring it back up. And tuck. And bring it back up. And tuck. And bring it back up. That's good. Okay, so the big thing about sideline is it gives you this nice body lengthening because you can use the leg as the lever. You can use your body to lock down the body, and you can physically distract one end from the other. You got a lot of accessibility to the head here. You can work anywhere in the scalp. You can work the back of the motor cylinder. You can work the SCM scalenes, those chronic chromes, and you have this active head engagement that you can use with it. Now you could always have people move their arms, move their legs. Doesn't matter what they're moving, as long as the engagement gives you a little bit of insistence. So back to it. Make sure the spine gets clean, and that's one of the most important parts. Okay, from here, we're going to go into a supine position. Okay, now at this point we are in a supine position. What we've done is placed a bolster underneath the shoulder blades, right under the tip of the shoulder blades. The bolster is just a rolled up towel that has in it a karate belt. It's enough to create a lever system back. We support the head because it tends to bring the head up. Okay? So from here we want to do a little more body lengthening. One of the first things we want to do is set the pubic symphysis. So bring the legs to this position. And close your legs for me. And close again. A lot of times you'll hear a snap or a pop, something like that, where that pubic symphysis tends to balance itself out. And we want to do some foot rocking. And basically this is like we did in a prone position, except we're doing it supine. This allows us to work the entire foot. As I turn the foot, I get pressure up into the back of the legs, the hamstrings. If I turn to one side and then turn to the other side, I can reach both of them. And basically, as you can see, you're trying to get a little pull into the entire body to make it rock. And we'll do that on both sides. Then you'll do a cross leg movement here. And we're just trying to mobilize everything and get it moving. And then you want to do an open leg tension. So get all of the hip components loose and make them mobile. Then we'll go back up to the upper extremity again, capturing the head in your hand, the entire neck, and with my arm down next to it, and add a little pressure and just range of motion with this neck. Try to get a good pin and stretch out of it. And again, while he's on the bolster, a lot of this gravity is working for him, making these neck and shoulders go back. Next thing then, I want to work this trapezius down. At the same time, I'll work the SCM. So it's composite movement. So I hold here and ask him to turn your head toward me. And as he does, I cut across the SCM into the base of the occiput. And with the other hand, I'm going across the top of the trapezius and just moving this tissue down. So this is a composite movement to work this motor cylinder and these upper traps. And we want to friction suboccipitals. Again, you can't get enough suboccipital work. And so I'll hold in here and I'll ask him, push your head back to my hands, and he pushes back, and I resist and release, and I come up a little bit further, As I get pushed back, and I resist, and release. And again, we're trying to stretch out those suboccipitals when we're doing this. One of the exercises is a durotube extension that you want to teach people. And that's done by tucking your chin down and pushing your head down at the same time. And again, you can work into the suboccipitals when they do that. It's a great headache release and a good exercise for people who've had whiplash, neck injuries, stuff like that. Okay. Next thing I want to do is work into these spleni a little bit. And Wayne, what I'm going to ask you to do is you're going to turn your head to the left and to the right slowly, but you'll keep your head down onto the pillow and you'll hear your hair as you turn your head. So that tells you that your head's going to be straight if you can hear your hair while your head turns. So I take my thumbs and I reach in here and angle the upper trap and go in toward the spine where the spleni muscles are located deep in there. Ask him, Wayne, turn your head to the right slowly for me. There you go. And to the left. And normally this can be fairly uncomfortable. We ask them to tell us when it's just pressure. And after it's just pressure, we can add a little more pressure. From here, I can go from thumbs, I can go to my fingers, and I can use them the same way, a little broader. This is a good way of helping work that first rib down also that tends to elevate on us. That's good. And then I go to just a big, broadband open fist. And you'll be doing this several times until the tissue becomes more compliant. Okay? One of the most important things in this structure that we're finding is the clavicle has to be mobile. It has to move for the scapula to go back. So we're going to do some pectoral work here. What I'm going to do on this side is I'm going to take this hand and place it right in this axial area here. You see it over there. And drop the arm across my hand, and this lets me stay into the subscapularis, and I'll reach right here around the neck, capturing these upper traps, and just kind of work all this area at once. And you just have to feel your way around to all the points of the scapula. You're going to work from the superior border all the way down to the inferior border. And it's going to be fairly uncomfortable, so they have to tell you what you're doing, but always move the body over your hand. Don't move the hand to the body any more than you have to. After you've worked that subscapularis, then come across, let the arm drape, and levering the arm a little bit, rocking around. We're trying to mobilize that scapula. The scapula's been mobilized, and also rock and lever this pectoralis minor back over the bolster. And once you've accomplished that, then come and drag some of this anterior chest tissue from right below the clavicles. Just bring it up and drag it. Just keep dragging. I'm working much faster than most people will be working on this, but it gives you an idea. Light level of the clavicles, and then turn back to that broad fist. It's all about moving that neck and shoulders back. Okay? Take out the bolster. And take out the shoulder bolster. Now we want to do a hip torque. Bring both legs toward me just like this, and I just let them lay on my leg. Reach around here, reach back here, next to the spine, and slowly rock the legs. And as I do, I'm coming down the spine and lengthening all this. A lot of times I ask you to push your head back to my hand, and that gives me a little more tension down the back. And again, you want to do all this on both sides. That's a real nice balancing method to bring that back in balance. Okay. So I think we pretty much covered that part. All we're trying to accomplish on this is to bolster the neck and shoulders over the bolster, and to get some release from the upper shoulders and move them off the ribs. Okay. From here then, this basically has moved your neck and shoulders back because we've done bench work, we've done prone work, we've done sideline work, and now the supine work. And then we're going to work on moving the hips back up underneath the body, and that's going to be done in this next piece. Okay, so we're in the second part of this. The bolster's right next to us. Our calves are about halfway off the end of the table, and that's going to give me a leverage system. I'm going to ask Wayne just to lay back here, and we may want to support his head a little bit. Eventually you won't need any real head support, because your head will just lay flat down. This is also a real nice way of doing a sit-up without bending. What I'm interested here though is we want to kind of open up the diaphragm, work through the psoas, and get the hips to de-rotate by pulling them out of the pockets. The other thing is, Wayne, I'm going to ask you if you'll leave your arm up here. Anytime you get too tired, you can bring them down. Okay? So what we're going to do here is some diaphragmatic decompression. And release. Place the fingers under the costal margin. Push the ribs over your fingers and kind of work up underneath this diaphragm. And with a broad band, open hand, I'm going to pick up some tissue and start distracting it downward and slightly diagonal to the opposite hip. Well, with a webbed hand, now we'll reach across the top of this ASIS, and there's a continuity between these two in the partial band that comes from the contralateral ASIS to the costal margin. And we just have to hold into this, and we'll drag that diaphragm down a little bit. And you'll do that on both sides. Then there's a fascial band that goes from basically where the psoas is straight through to the ASIS. I'm sorry, straight through from the ASIS right in this area, straight through to the issue tuberosity. So if I bend the leg up, place my knee up underneath it. What this does, it creates a rocker system. As you can see in my leg, if my body just kind of kicks that leg up, it creates a rocker system. So I'm going to take my hand, reach underneath and to the issue tuberosity, just go until you hit the bone, then just slightly hook around the bone, and hold that point, ask them if there's any soreness, sometimes it can be. And take my hand in a broadband action, reach right across the ASIS here into where the psoas would be. And so now I've got the issue tuberosity in my fingers. I can kind of pull on it, and I've got the ASIS underneath my hand here. I can pull into that, and then my leg hooks back and feels like I'm just kind of pulling his leg right out of the pocket using my body weight. To make this happen a little faster, if the psoas is hot, something like that, we ask him, I'm going to push down on your leg, Wayne. Don't let me move your leg. So you're only going to resist as much as I push down. So if I push down, he resists, and I loosen up. As he resists, I just kind of traction. Notice I tell them, don't let me move it, instead of push up to 10 pounds or something. That doesn't calibrate as well for people. Okay. So basically that's what we're doing with the legs. We're going to wind up pulling these legs out of the pockets. And again, we're only leaving you half locked up here. Alright. From there, once you've done this, and again this is going to be done a little slower, I want to lengthen the arm lines. The arm lines are something you don't think a lot about, but there's a continuity of this spiral band that goes from the far ASIS all the way to this right arm. So we reach over to the ASIS, and we just drag the tissue up diagonally toward us, across, and coming until it reaches costa margin, and continue on with it. Up the lateral side, where I am is basically going right up this side here. Until I capture the arm. And what I want to do is treat this arm like it has a sock on it. So the inside of it, I'm pulling the tissue toward me. The back side of the arm, I'm pushing toward him. It's just like you put your socks on wrong and the heel's in the wrong spot and you kind of have to move that sleeve. That's kind of how you're treating this. So this allows you to work the inside aspect of the arm and the outside aspect all at one time. And again, a lot of ways of doing it. Some people put the arm across and they iron it down this way. You can do that. I like this method of just kind of moving the sock, as I call it, because I can clamp the arm in my own here, and that leaves my hands free. We'll always work around the joint areas, really clear any knots that you find. And that will wind up lengthening out the arms. So what you've done here is, you've loosened the diaphragm, dragged it down, you've done some fascial work between these core connections, these fascial cores, and you've got a leg to get out of the pocket, so to speak, to move this leg out of the pocket. What you can also do is balance it in your arm, reach in here to where the psoas is, and you can pin and stretch the psoas, which is a very common thing that we do. In whatever direction that causes it to pop underneath your fingers. What you can also do here is resist the knee and just drag this fascial plane straight up the stomach. So I'm going to push down on your knee, you're going to resist it, and then just drag it straight up. And you can do this to both sides at the same time. If you have strong enough abs and can do this, just put your abs into the knees, and then push your knees up, and same thing, lift this front line. The principle is what I'd like to convey to you. I'm really not interested that you're doing exactly the same way I'm doing it, but you do want to do the principle, and that is to drag this front line upward. And then, of course, I can take holding his arm. Sorry. And place my hand next to his neck and just kind of drive it down into the bolster and ask him to turn his head to the left, keeping it next to my arm. And as he does, I kind of move the arm a little bit. I'm pushing across that pectoralis, and this whole area is lengthening. We're doing all this at one time, and because he's working his neck, he doesn't notice quite how uncomfortable it can be in this area. And that leads you back to your neck work. We'll take this out. Because he has his legs off the end of the table, all he has to do is push into the table with his heels, pulling a little bit. I'm going to reach up underneath the suboccipitals here and ask him, when you touch your feet together and push your heels down, toes down, and you'll feel it pulling you forward. There you go. And release. And so I'm just going to hold this area, and it's up to you to traction yourself a little at a time. And hold, and release. This is a really nice way of letting them traction. All you have to do is be able to hold on and let them do the traction work for you. Okay? At this point, you would want to take the person back to the bench and probably do some erector stripping, or you can do some of that on the table itself. Let's see if this works. Right here. And basically what I'm going to do is lock down and say, okay, Wayne, tuck your chin down, and then look to the ceiling, tuck down, and look to the ceiling, and tuck down, and look to the ceiling. And as he does that, you just go down the erectors. Now I want you to bend forward as far as you can, slowly. That's good. Come back up and just work that on both sides, or take them to the bench and do that. So what we've done is try to straighten this person's body a little bit. We put them on a bench, and we move their neck and shoulders back. We put them face down. We try to loosen up the back. We put them sideline. We clean up the spine a little bit, which is pretty important in working this motor cylinder. We place them on their back again. We put them through a leverage system. The same leverage system is what we're using in our postural correction self-help. So it's not rocket science, not hard to do. Then put them off the end of the table, and that gives you a little more leverage to release the hips. And that's what this postural correction does. Moves the neck and shoulders back, takes the shoulders off the ribs, and puts the hips back up underneath the body. And that's the most important in the first session. As it was quoted, Ida Rolf said, the most important thing in the first session is what? They all said, well, move the ribs, move the shoulders off the ribs and move the hips back underneath. She said, no, the most important thing in the first session is the client has to feel the difference so they won't come back for the rest of those sessions. And they're working in the 10-session model. So same thing here. When a person gets up, they feel their hips have been de-rotated and decompressed. They usually say my pants are loose, my tummy's flatter, and my neck and shoulders are back. And then they have to go home and reinforce that. And they'll come in for follow-up sessions, and what you want to do then is get real specific. If you have adhesions or lesions anywhere along the spine, you really want to mine those out. And the same goes for the other parts of the body. If you have adhesions in the legs, something like that, or feet need to be molded. Again, you can go back to the structural balance regimen that we teach, and it goes more in-depth, more specific on the individual muscles. This is just trying to take the overall structure and get it to a starting point, something that the person can feel. Okay, this is different, and I like where I'm feeling this. So again, this is the postural correction regimen. Thank you.